Welcome everyone to Love and Beloved Platform. Thank you for continuing supporting and following along. And this podcast has brought value to your life. If this podcast brought value to your life, please share and subscribe and rate for others to discover it. I hope it encourages you and gives you hope and inspires you. And today we have a very special guest. It's Dorothy Graham O'Dell. And this conversation have been long coming. Trust me, guys. I had the privilege of being a guest on Dorothy's show where I got the glimpse into her incredible story. So I knew that I like her to share on my podcast as well. So I'm so glad that you graciously agree. And yeah, welcome, Dorothy, to Love and Beloved Platform.
Well, thank you for having me, Lena. When I met you, I was just like, I love this woman and we're going to be doing great things. So I think this is the start of a beautiful friendship. And who knows where this will go over the years. And yeah, it's an honor to be here. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I appreciate your kind words because I knew that we're gonna be friends right away too. So, can you share a little bit about your journey and the key experiences that has shaped you in who you are today?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I come from a great loving family. However, my parents were chronically sick. Thank God they took turns, being taking turns having a bad day. I say that jokingly, but yeah, my mom went 20 years undiagnosed with angina and lupus. And so she was like chronically tired, and my dad ended up having his first stroke at 30. And it just was a life of, constant chaos, a lot of love, but constant chaos. And so I just grew up knowing a lot about different medical things that I probably didn't want to know, but knew anyways. And so I just found that, I was overweight as a child, and which led to a lot of things. Kids can be cruel in the playground. So, a lot of bullying, a lot of low self-esteem, a lot of emotional eating back then, and just really it was the perfect storm for when I met that, the first guy that said he loved me, and I actually believed him. And you get that gut feeling where you're like, back away, but you don't, because you're like, oh, somebody really loves me, which was not the case. But ended up being 4 years in a mentally and verbally abusive relationship. Got out of that, and even the places that I worked for were not kind. There was a lot of abuse going on within those spaces as well. And I took it because I needed a paycheck, and I thought, well, maybe this is what the outside world really looks like. So, just keep going, putting one foot in front of the other, not knowing that really what I was going through was not something that wasn't normal. And really what's normal. We had a lot of mental health issues within our family as well. My dad's young middle brother completed suicide Christmas Day 23 years ago, or maybe longer than, no, it was 23 years ago. So it's no stranger to that. And which was heartbreaking because it devastated my grandparents, and to see my grandparents lose a child was just devastating in itself. And at first, we were never allowed to talk about it, so we just like buried it and suppressed it. And I really didn't know how much that affected me until later on in life. And it would be the first thing that I said to somebody, and I was just like, "Oh, that's not normal." But I didn't know it wasn't normal until later on in life, right? So it's just it was a lot of chaos, a lot of stress, a lot of being the oldest, a lot of pressures. I took it upon myself to be the caregiver within the family, and to really, cook, clean, do whatever was needed around the house so that my parents could just take care of themselves. And learning to, um, not realizing that I resented it a lot of the times, but just really never putting a word to that. And actually, this is the first time I've said this on the podcast, and I've been on a lot of different shows before. So this is the first time that I'm really saying that newly, where, um, you know, I love my parents, but they're now I don't want to take care of anybody. I'm 48 years old. I just want to take care of me because no one's really done that. And so, if you don't take care of yourself, no one else is going to take care of you. So the
That's
last
so
two
funny you
years,
saying this phrase because that was my mother and grandmother was saying that, which is sorry to interrupt. Go
no,
ahead.
that's okay. No, I was just saying it's been a journey. Like I've been on a lot of a journey the last 15 years of personal development, but for the last 2 years, it's been really taking a look at the inner work, the inner me, like what does Dorothy need to survive? And not that I
And
don't take care of
thrive too.
and thrive.
Definitely survive. Yes.
Right. Like I'm tired of surviving. it's now my time to thrive. And so just really looking at though, what do I need to do that? Because for decades, I did what everybody expected me to do or wanted me to do. And now I'm just like, no, I'm doing what Dorothy needs to do. And that's taking some work.
Sure. But it's okay, I want to say this, but first of all, I would say, oh my goodness, your story so resonates with mine. But I'm so proud of you, everything that you achieved. We're gonna talk about this a little bit later on, but at this point, I'm like, you're amazing. You are so brave and courageous, and I know words coming that your childhood was stolen from you by default, and the fact that up to this time you were learning that you need to take care of yourself. Before, you just didn't know that this is what you need
Yeah.
because nobody ever taught you about self-care and serving from overflow. No, you just have to have those to-dos, responsibilities. I have to take care of the people, and that's how lots of women live until
Mhm.
like we go through life. If God bless us with long life, we going through that self-development and realizing if I'm serving from empty, running on empty, I'm falling apart, and resentment builds because I don't really serve anyone with that from the that serving from the need rather than from the desire, and it's does not create not healthy boundaries, not with yourself, not with the others. But look how awesome that you've been on this path that
Mhm.
been given to you, and you actually go through the self-development. And honestly, self-care is not selfish. This is now my favorite phrase because and anyone who listened to this podcast or few previous, I'm honestly, I want women to take care of themselves first. And
Mhm.
it's not like hati kind of like where I go buy Gucci bags and go have a plane to Bahamas, but I'm talking about look into what your needs are. And you know how the kids at school though like, oh, fill my bucket. So make sure that you write it down what is that fills your bucket first, and then
Mhm.
you're gonna serve from overflow, and that's how it's gonna be easier to deal with this with all the negative feelings too. And so yes, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
being vulnerable, and thank you for saying this is first time I'm saying that. So when you said that, how did it feel? Was that freeing? Was that scary? Like what happened in that moment?
I think it's more of an awareness.
Okay.
I don't, it's funny because, like I said, I wrote a book. I have my shows and things like that, and I am not the same person I was 4 years ago when I started this journey. And so, um, for me, openly sharing has not is like I'm probably considered an oversharer on a lot of different things. And so for me it's more of an awareness thing. It's just like, oh, I get to uncover another layer, right? And
Mm.
so for me, healing is like an onion. It's layer after layer after layer. And so it's just an awareness, and it is kind of freeing because I'm like, oh, well, I didn't see that before. So I know I'm elevating, I know I'm quantum leaping my life, and I know that, okay, this is just another thing that I've uncovered. So thank you, Jesus, because now I can go to the next level, right? And whereas before, like historically, My, I would never have thought of that. If you would have told me back when I was a teen that I would be talking like this to you today, I would have told you you're crazy.
Mhm.
Because back then it was just like it was survival mode. And I didn't even realize that's what I was in. And just like I said, living my life for other people and not living my life for me. And I think that's what started the emotional eating. And because I knew that it was subconsciously, I knew that that
Mhm.
wasn't the way life was supposed to be, but I didn't know anything different. And so that's, I think, really, truly, that's where everything came in. And so we have to love ourselves the way we're at because it was decades worth of this things that have happened that have got us to this moment, right? And so true love is you love all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So.
That's awesome. The next question, it's not part of my, excuse me, guys. It's not part of my notes, but I keep thinking, so what you gonna do about this now? So now you uncover, you have this awareness. And
Mhm.
actually, that's general question. What you doing with all the layers of your onion when you discover something new? What's next about that?
So what I personally do, and like I said, I've been on this journey really of the healing journey for the last 15 years. And so what I do is I journal everything out. Like I go into meditation, I go into journaling, and I'll journal it out. Now, if I find myself resisting that, I know that there's like I'm resisting it because I don't want to get into it, or I'll get into like a book. If I see myself reading constantly, I know that I'm avoiding what I need to do. And so for me, I really take an inventory daily of my activities, like just running through my head. That doesn't mean that write it down all the time, but when I'm aware of this, I usually journal it out and think, okay, so what is that? Find out what it's usually like a limiting belief that we have about ourselves or a situation, and then I release it. And I might have to release it a couple times, but my intent is always to release it because I always want to go to my next level. I never want to stay where I'm at. And it's funny because I had a teacher Joanne Mugi. I took an on-purpose course with her. So she was the on-purpose lady, and she was teaching the on-purpose course, and that was 7 years ago. I met her through a woman's networking meeting, and I took her on-purpose course, and then I met my husband right after that
Wow.
because that was like I did like visions and finding out what my purpose was back then. And she gave me this candle because inside that weekend it was life changing because I had said that I was ready to meet my spouse, right? And so
Wow.
in that and that's all I want, like that was always kept coming up every time I did
Mhm.
this thing, right? And so in that weekend she had this candle, and the candle, once you let it burn, there's always something inside of it, and she never know what's inside of it. So when it burnt down, it showed a couple. And I wish I didn't know I was going to talk about this. The candle's in my bedroom, or I'd go get it to show you. But she gave me that candle years later, and said, this is a representation of that weekend, and this is like it represents Joe and I, like my husband and I. So it was kind of cool how it all went down. And yeah, I've never shared that either. So there you go. That's a
That's
new one.
awesome. I love it. And honestly, there's like so much stuff going on about the universe and all that stuff, but I am woman of faith. I believe in God, and I believe that He knows desires of our hearts, and I believe that He's always leading and guiding us to take actions and for healing. And now this with resentment as well, because I dealt with that for last 20 years because of my parents. I dealt with hate and anger and stuff towards them. And that wasn't a surprise. I had that since I was 16, but it took me a long time to figure out how to deal with that. And I did write a book about it, but honestly, I this is was writing process took me 3 years. So I didn't have a deadline, and I just was writing this manuscript, just having this healing journey between me and God. It was like a therapy between me and God. And that's why every time right now, anything coming up like that, first advice I give them, you have to write it down. You have to journal. You have to use the pen and paper because we process it differently. Our thoughts, rather, sometimes like I can process with talking as well, but when you write it you can actually analyze and you focus on that as well. So it's funny, I was doing podcasts with my friend and every time it's something like tool and strategy, I'm like pen and paper, write it down, reflection. And in the end she's like, are we writing this down? I'm like, yes. But so I was so excited that you said you have to write it down because it's definitely it's those moments of reflection can bring you like further because you literally can um like investigate why this
Mhm.
is happening, why it's feeling, because life is so busy for us. I think another part important to sit with yourself, and write. I'm not talking just meditation or anything like that. Just write because we are so busy with so much other information. We don't take time for ourselves, especially women are so busy with everybody else, needs. We
Mhm.
don't investigate what our needs are and what triggers us, all the negative behavior, all the negative thoughts. It's have some root in somewhere in the trauma somewhere there, even like with your overeating, my overeating took me like long time to figure out. I literally like 10 years I was like in this lose weight journey, come on, and I'm so good at fasting and weightlifting, but something bad happens, like bad, I'm just bad, good, whatever,
Mhm.
life
Life,
happens,
life
and I
happens. Yeah.
get so derailed and I get all my weight back, all my progress, and I'm falling apart. My emotional, mental health go, woo. But nobody ever diagnosed me with postpartum depression. Nobody ever told me that I have PTSD because I have that past with the human trafficking, drug abuse, alcohol abuse. Nobody ever told me I have trauma. So I'm kind of like trying to like swim. I was telling this to my friend, when I'm so scared of like surfing because there are sharks, there's these waves, like those, I don't know, donuts waves, like I don't know. I have a panic attack. And that's how I felt every time something derails me and my mental health get like swipe out. So how the heck you can eat, sleep, and exercise when you in this I don't know what
Constant
is that
cycle.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then 10 years later I realized, oh, I think I have a problem. And then this wonderful age of the Facebooks, Google come up, and just people start talking about the mental health, about trauma. I'm like, I have that. I have that. So honestly, when I started addressing the past and
Mhm.
figuring stuff out, like you said, Dorothy, about self-development, self-awareness, this is my jam because now I'm the most stable that I ever been. And if you guys listening to this, it's okay. Wherever you are, start there and investigate. Have that reflection time and everything that impacts you negatively have a trauma in there. So look into it. Sometimes it's gonna be okay to talk to the friend, but sometimes you're gonna need help of the professional as well. And I've
Mhm.
been in therapy counseling last few years and with the psychotherapist, and it's been like an amazing progress. So I believe in that. So whatever your journey is, there is no due date to healing. Just go. Don't compare to yourself to anyone. Just go forward, slowly but surely, and you're gonna be okay. There's hope. So
Mhm.
now we're gonna talk about your amazing path and passion and purpose. So tell us a little bit what inspired you to write The Overcomer, facing challenges with faith and courage, and how did that journey led to your second book, The Overcomer Playbook.
Yeah, I got both of them here,
Oh, nice.
which can be found on Amazon. So yes, little shameless plug there. So, so yeah, it's funny enough, my my dad getting sick and for the last time, and getting diagnosed with cancer was the catalyst for me, my self-care journey. And so he became diagnosed 5 years ago. It was April, so coming up soon, the anniversary date for that.
Mm.
And we at the start of this journey, we you go talk to the oncologist and things like that, and uh, that in itself is like a 3 hours of hell, which you never ever expected it would be 3 hours of. I wasn't prepared for that. But one of the questions that came out of that was anybody in her family could have had access to a social worker. So they said, does anybody in your family want access to that? And I'm like, I'll take it. Up to this point, I have been everybody's of contact for everything. Like Dorothy fixes everything. Dorothy, come to Dorothy with every freaking problem that you could possibly imagine on the planet because Dorothy will fix it. And I felt tired. I had just gotten engaged to my now husband. So planning a wedding, um, a lot of things happening, and it was. I had never openly talked about everything that had gone in my life. And I was, like I said, the resentment, and I can see now why, because my mom and I used to butt heads really bad, because we were a lot alike. And I just, but now I can identify it. It was after talking to a social worker that's like, wait a minute. It was like I popped the zit and 40 years of stuff just came pouring out in this session. And so I thought, she said, what's your self-care like? And I said, it's non-existent. Like, what are you talking about? Put everybody before me, and that's just how my life was. And didn't realizing how motoristic that really is. And then being, like I said, bitter about it afterwards and not realizing the bitterness that I was carrying inside of me. And so I was talking to a girlfriend one day and I said, do you ever realize that yeah, I've gone through a lot in life. And she says, yeah, you have. And I said, I should write a book about it. And she said, you should. And I'm like, I don't have time for this, right? I just really don't have time for this. And so COVID hit. And God's like, you have time now because now you don't have to drive that hour to work and that hour back. So now you have time. So it took me like less than 3 months to write it. I just sat down at the computer and it just like flowed out of me. And I was just like, what the heck, right? And I said, if that book helps one person, then it would be worth it. And of course, I wanted to be the next Jack Canfield, get number on the bestsellers list and all that. I mean, it was on the Amazon bestseller, did win an award. But it was just like it was a journey, it was a process, it was cathartic, right? And I spoke about you the bullying and the abusive relationship, and I briefly touched on my uncle's death and things like that, and just the very first boyfriend I had that, he was from a different culture and how that affected, because my dad at one point was very racist at one point. And my first boyfriend was Muslim. So that didn't go over too well in my family at the beginning. And my mom had to sit my dad down and say, listen, if you want to lose your daughter, then keep on going the way you're at. But if you're not, then check yourself at the door type of thing. And I think that's probably the first time my mom ever stood up to my dad as well, because my dad was like, do as I say, don't do as I do. Um, and so it was just like a lot of moment, like my heart, blood, sweat, and tears poured into this book. And I just shared, those moments of overwhelming sadness and just like, but still putting one foot in front of the other, not realizing that, wait a minute, this this was my life, but not realizing that there could be a different way, right? And so putting that all out on paper and just sharing all that, and I wanted people to realize that if I can get through this, so can you, right? I'm no different than anybody else, and I'm not more special or have different qualities than anybody else. So, and I just wanted people that were in the trenches going through those moments, because I know I'm not the only one that has gone through it, that you're not alone, and to give hope where that seems like hopelessness. There is a lot of we lose between veterans and civilians. We lose 136 people to suicide per day. Was the last time I looked at the numbers, and I was just like, "There's no way I ever want anybody to feel that low and that hopeless." So if I could save a life, that was the part. That was what I wanted to do. And so that started my journey. So wrote the book, got it out, and writing the book's easy. It's getting it out to the masses and getting people like interested in it, or even becoming aware of it is was the different part. And so the next part for me was I saw this ad that said 6 weeks and you can have your live stream up and running, and I'm like, well, what the heck is that? Uh,
Hold on, Dorothy.
okay,
I
yes.
just want to stop you for a second because, first of all, I want to acknowledge you for that. I don't want us to skip this part because you said that so fast, and I want to just like pause like for a second, and we're gonna go into because I have a question for that too. But you said yeah, and it's been bestseller and this and that. First of all, I want to congratulate you that you have a courage to actually pour this out because it's not easy and then release it to the public. Because one thing that you want to serve others, but the fact that this process, it takes and time and courage. And I bet there was lots of healing while you going through it. But the fact that it's got so successful because you were honest and open and vulnerable. I'm so grateful for people like you that put yourself out there to help others because exactly like you said, when somebody read that, I do believe we have this like the same lie that we believe, especially if there's trauma, shame, guilt, or condemnation. We always feel that this is me, this is because of me, the a shame, about like everything's going on, overeating and anger and all this stuff. We always caught up in this lie that we are alone. This is like our life and we're going through. But the same I read or I heard women speaking from stage about the abuse and they've been healed. And I look at them and I thought, wow, if she can do it, I can do it. Or sometimes I was thinking, how can she say that? And then now I'm openly saying everything about my life as well because I was inspired by someone else. And that's why I'm really grateful for the fact that you released that book, release your story, release your life for somebody else to read. And that's why it's in depth so successful because people want that hope because they see that there is something more you can have. And now, literally, seeing your glowing face, smiling, joking, and how you are now, I can see the healing, and it's part of the process. And it's not like, oh, I'm so joyful because nothing bad ever happened to me, but because hell happened, and you overcome. So this one, overcomer and facing challenges with faith and courage, it's like such a perfect name for your book. So I'm really grateful for what you do and I appreciate you. So I want um to acknowledge that before we move on all your other achievements, which is common right now. So I'm gonna ask you a question and you can tell us this story.
Sure.
So,
Well, thank you for that. Thank you. I appreciate and I received that acknowledgement, so thank you.
that's awesome. This is very important part too. So you know what? Actually, I'm gonna ask this question after. Would you like to tell us that story first?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. So like I said, getting the book out was easy. It's and then figuring out how to get it out, right? And so being in Windsor, Ontario, my thought process was, no one knows where we are. No one knows who I am. I'm just a small town girl in a big world, right? And so I saw this advertisement, took the course, got my first show up and running called Unstoppable Overcomers. And I was just like, because in my networking and getting the book out, I met so many incredible people that had similar stories. but I was just like, let's give them a platform to be able to share their story. And I had this crazy idea, like, let's be the next Oprah, right? Let's like Oprah went from rags to riches, and if she can do it, why can't I, right? And not that it was for the money, but it was for the people that she helped. Like, look at the millions of people that
Yes.
Oprah has helped, by starting her show, right? And by being in the movies that she was in, The Color Purple and things like that, and so just really wanting to be of service to people, so that we can all be in this together. Let's come together, as a collective conscious and say, hey, wait a minute, I'm no different than this person, and we got through it too, and this is how we did it. Because how I did it is not exactly how you're going to do it, and how everybody else. So we can all have similar stories, but I believe God has tied certain people to our lives that people are going to resonate with my story, and people are going to resonate with yours on a different level. So I thought, what great way to do this. And then starting that first show, January 31st of 2021, I believe, I met a guy by the name of Greg Bicknell who completely changed my life. He was a 28-year Air Force veteran, who had attempted suicide 3 times while he was in service. And he brought to my attention that 22 veterans a day were dying by suicide at that time. And as Greg's sharing his story, and it's just like he wanted to be a service to others, and he started a nonprofit. And I'm just like, well, how can I help these men and women that have put their lives on the line for us? Right. And so that became another whole movement where I now am a veteran ally, veteran and first responder ally. And my purpose in life is to help these men and women get the help that they need, so that they're not struggling with their PTSD, that they're not struggling with their trauma, that they're not in their trauma, that they don't put a bullet in their head and say that this is not
Solution.
okay.
Yeah.
Right. For the solution is not like we could decide in a moment that we want life to take us out or take us out of life. But in that moment, like, don't make it a long-term solution to a short problem, I guess I'm saying it wrong, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Mm.
And so I joined his board for 3 years, and is beside him every way. Met some incredible men and women that have served, and then I was reminded, well, wait a minute, now I've come full circle, because it's not that I forgot my life and what had happened, but my grandfather was a president of the Canadian Legion in Kingsville. I believe it's branch 138 or something like that. I forget the ranch. Anyways, so we grew up in the Canadian Legion. Every Friday we'd go to town. We'd go have a drink with Grandpa, listen to different stories, and was reminded I had another uncle that had served in the Canadian Armed Forces. And then I start finding, different stories. Like, my great grandfather was in the Navy, and so service has always been my life. It's been true. It's our lifeblood in our family of service. So whether that's serving our country or whether that's serving other people. And I just really got that in this moment. So thank you, Lena, for letting me process this as we go along. That I've had a life of service, and so really giving our men and women, though, a safe space to be able to share their story has been important to me. And I started, different shows, one for businesses and one for our veterans and our first responders. So in 3 years, we went from one show to three. In 4 years, sorry, in 4 years we went from one show to three, and so added that to the books. Did write the second book, The Overcomer Playbook. It's more of the how-tos, the steps I use to overcome in life. And so yeah, so that's where we're at today.
That's awesome. I think like you answered next three questions after that, but I probably will ask this about as a keynote speaker and host of Unstoppable Overcomers, what message do you hope share with your audience?
Hope. Don't give up hope. And don't give up. That is my main message. I really have created a platform for people to be able to share their story in a safe space, and to know that people are never alone. It is my darkest times when I thought I was alone. And I was never one to reach out for help at all.
Mm.
It's been the last 5, 6 years that I've actually been able to accept help from people. And so, and I know what it's like to feel worthless and that you shouldn't, reach out for help. Because why would somebody want to help you? And so that is my main message, to bring hope to the hopeless and to know that people are never alone.
That is beautiful. So, Dorothy,
Thank
what are some of the biggest challenges um, you have? Well, we already heard about the challenges as a overcomer, but actually, my question is how your faith and courage help navigate them.
I would definitely say without God or Jesus or whatever you believe, or believing in a higher power, if you don't believe in God, that has definitely got me through my biggest times. And um, yeah, I became a Christian. I gave my life to Jesus uh, 15 years ago, I think it was. Um, and so without him guiding me, I know I wouldn't be where I am today. Um, and yeah, that I would have to say that in a nutshell has really got me through, because I just sometimes it's those soft whispers of like that I hear um from him that is just like, not to give up, because there are some days I just want to give up. There's some days I'm like, why am I doing this? Right? I'm in my small, very small spare bedroom, and I look at this and I know, wait a minute, this is how it all started out, right? And I know where I'm going and I know what God has for me. But to know that start off in this bedroom, the spare bedroom, and should imagine what it's going to be, where he's taking it. Um, so yeah. Does that answer your question? Sorry,
Oh
I kind of
yeah,
got
no,
off on that
honestly,
tangent.
like I keep thinking, oh my gosh, there's so many parallels between our stories. And did is it the 2011 you give your life to Christ? If
I
it's
think
like
so. I
15,
think
because this is gonna be really mind-blowing because same as me. I give my life to Christ in 2011 and I got baptized, and it's what happened in that moment. Yeah, and you're talking about faith because um when I come up like from the human trafficking, drug abuse, and all this stuff, I start looking how normal people do things to thrive, because I was like given this opportunity to have second chance in life. So I assume if I earn diplomas, medals, trophies, put my name everywhere, get the husband, get the baby, clean house, then I gonna have worth, peace, value, because that's how everybody do it and they have it.
Mhm.
So I assume, because I'm looking and comparing to the people who is been now in my normal life, kind of. And then I'm so grateful to God that He allowed me to have all. And then I still had no peace, no worth, no value. I actually got really depressed with the postpartum after my first child. There was no drugs or booze to medicate my pain. I was lonely, alone. And I actually feel that that time between me having everything and me meeting God, I lived in hell. Like literally, and I was going on a dry with no medication. So like I was literally, it was so bad. And then I went to church just because I want to impress and my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and that's where I heard the message of salvation. And I got to Alpha course. And honestly, guys, like if you want to just explore Christianity, faith, honestly, this is the best place to start. And I have that on my website, but I can put the links as well here, because it's like not judgmental, very open questions, why I'm here, and who is Jesus, and like what happened when we die, because we all have those questions. So honestly, this is not to like convert you or whatever, like God give us free will to choose. So honestly, who I am to make you choose Christianity or relationship with God? And especially after all these years, lots of people been hurt by religion,
Mhm.
but relationship with God, it's not a religion. So I'm telling you, this is what actually helped me to have hope, peace, and value. So now my identity does not depend of if I'm higher performer today or I'm dealing with my mental health tomorrow. My feelings, my attitude, like always like I'm doing like this, like it's nice. No, it's like more like that wave
Yes.
but in the storm. But I know that I'm loved, I know I belong, I know that I have like God have plan and purpose for my life. And look, if you listening right now this episode and listening Dorothy's story and my story and hearing that actually Christ saved us and now give us purpose, passion, and path, and all this mess become our message and our like marvelous, tool to help others, then maybe it have kind of the you know a
Mhm.
point to look into it. And honestly, just be open-minded. If you in the end of your rope, like I was, and you don't know where to go, this is wonderful place to start. So I'm really grateful, Dorothy, that you're sharing this because honestly, this is really helpful. And I want to ask you this question. You are passionate about creating a wave of impact that will change the world. And what is your ultimate vision for difference you want to make?
Wow. Okay, so my vision is it's kind of huge. Uh,
Give it to me.
so
I love it.
when I said so it's funny because I did take the Alpha course and there was another course that at my church that I went to and I can't remember the name of the book. I have the front cover, but in that course God revealed to me an academy. I have the vision, I drew it out. So when I first started this 4 years ago, I had put down the Overcomer Academy. And then I put it out there and then I forgot about it. Not really forgetting about it, but God had me on the path of media, right? And so doing the shows, doing like that. We've also partnered with Exciting Minds Media. So in my vision board and what I have envisioned is having the world's largest media company in the world, sharing stories of hope, overcoming, and resilience.
Wow.
And that will be the main focus. And then, if with that, like business owners and service. So my whole thing is overcoming in life, business, and service. And so, but having the largest media company in the world to do that. So giving people that platform. And so there's a lot of negative stuff, like whether you're on social media or even watching, watching TV, right? There's a lot of shows out there that have negative connotation or like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And not that I'm, you know, condoning any of that. But let's put a positive message out there. If we can put a negative message out there and things like that, why can't we put a positive? So having that place where people could go to watch these movies, to watch these episodes and shows and really leave with a message of hope, with a message of not giving up and with a message of like, wait a minute, um, this reality TV show, let's take reality TV show to the new level, right? Let's share the stories of people being in the trenches, right? Of people being raped and people being in the sex trafficking and how they raised up from that, right? Because I have never been in those situations, nor thank God do I ever want to be. But that doesn't mean that somebody like Lena can come and share their story and say, wait a minute, I was in that situation and yes, it sucked, but my God got me out of that. And here is, here's how I did it. So let's share those stories. Let's show, let's bring reality TV to a whole new level of really going, no, this is the story, right? And I'm glad. Can I just mention that you said about religion? Religion, I think, is what kills Christianity. I have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And it's the light that he gave in me that shines through so that people are attracted to. When you start saying that, Catholic or Anglican or Presbyterian or whatever is better, that is a religion, and that to me is what repels people. So if you're telling me, like, of all the commandments, the greatest commandment is love. So if you love your neighbor, don't tell me that you're a Christian and then say that you hate somebody who's gay, because that's not Christianity.
Yeah.
That is being judgmental, and that is being in a religion. And that's not what God wants.
Yeah,
God
and
wants
God
love.
says not to judge. I'll take care of it. Your job to love, I'll take care of rest of it. And it's actually it's good that you point that out because it took like such a huge burden from me because my podcast called Love and Beloved, and when I start sharing my story, I have this huge burden. I'm like, I have to share Jesus. I want people to know Jesus because he did this for me. I want that so bad for them. But guess what? God gave me free will to choose.
Mhm.
So he took that burden. So I love people and I don't judge because like I don't know where they are in their life, but God does. So whatever like I'm sharing, so God said share your story, support people, when they come, love on them. And that's what I do. And it's such a beautiful thing that not to have those feelings like about it. But anyway, that's a little bit sidetrack for you guys, and I'm really grateful. But I want to say that's an amazing vision. Like, I love where you're going. And honestly, in the future, if you need like any partner ups, shout outs, any like marketing and stuff, like you go after your vision, I'll be by your side because it seems like we go in the same way. We have the same dream to support and serve people and make people lives better. So that's a big dream, but I do believe it's possible because honestly, although the work seems sometimes a dark place, there's light. So if you guys need hope, like know that you're loved and you're never alone. So I'm really grateful for this, Dorothy. And please tell us where people can find more about your work and about you as well.
Sure, you can definitely go to my website, which is unstoppableovercomers.com, overcomers with an S.com, or check us. I'm heavily on Facebook and LinkedIn at Dorothy Graham O'Dell. Check me out there. Please say hi. I would love to hear from you. If you have a story of overcoming in life, business, or service, please connect with me. And yeah, let's make your story shown to the masses. It's and it's a pleasure to serve you because, by serving you, I'm serving him. So,
That's awesome. And before I let you go, I would like to ask you my signature question.
sure.
What does love and to be loved means to you?
To be loved, I think it's to be accepted just for who I am and who I'm not. Um, yeah, love to me, acceptance equals love. Um, and it's funny, you know that book, Five Love Languages? I've taken that, and I don't just have one love language. I'm all like so
It's
seriously.
funny, like it drives me crazy when you're saying stuff, and I'm like, that's me, that's me.
I think because I was so in the negative on
Mhm.
that because I gave everything of myself that when anybody does anything little for me, it's like I'm 100% appreciative, and really acknowledge that with others, and that's why I'm just like, no, I love it all. So, whether that be gifts, love, or whatever, it's or even the biggest thing my husband can do for me is send me a text, and I don't care what it is because then I know he's thinking
Aw.
about me. And it's still, and he doesn't get that. He just like just a text to say, "Hey, love you," or even like a heart. It just makes my day. So stuff like that is just, yeah. So that means love to me. And to be loved, well, I have the biggest heart, and I usually share it with everybody. So, which sometimes got me in trouble, but yeah, I am who I am. So
That's awesome. Is there any final thoughts, Dorothy?
I would just say be who you are, accept who you are, make yourself first, make yourself a priority, and know that you're never alone in anything that you're going through. And definitely reach out to us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you can and share it with everybody. I would be greatly appreciated if you could do that. My main focus this year is to get, eyes on that so that we could spread it with more people and share with more people, share the love with more people, so that we could reach more people with the stories that are being told.
That's beautiful. All right. Thank you so much, Dorothy, for being our guest today. You provided so much insight and inspiration, and we truly appreciate you sharing your heart and your wisdom with us. And you guys don't hesitate to reach out to Dorothy. I will include the links and everything was mentioned in this episode in the show notes. And you can find this episode on any listening platform like iTunes or Spotify, or if you prefer to watch it on YouTube, it's on YouTube as well. So stay tuned for another episode of Love and Beloved. Thank you so much for listening and for your ongoing support. And thank you, Dorothy. I'm so grateful for you and your time.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Until the next time, take care and be blessed.